Hi everyone, this video will focus on scaffolding and extended response and will prepare you for what you have to do in lesson 3. So let's begin. The outcome you'll be assessed on is plans and conducts historical investigations and presents reasoned conclusions using relevant evidence from a range of sources. So step 1, if you are faced with an extended response question, what you should do at the beginning is read and understand the question. You can use your highlighter to highlight key words. For example, if you get the question, assess the usefulness of your chosen sources to a historian studying the strategies employed by the American government to recruit men for the war effort during World War I, you should highlight words such as assess, usefulness, source, strategies, American government, and recruit, just so you know what you are scanning the source for. Now, with highlighting the word assess, I've also put Bloom's taxonomy next to it so you know what section the word assess falls into. So assess is right up there with evaluation, and it requires you to make and defend judgments based on internal evidence or external criteria. So it's a pretty high order question and it's a difficult question, and you have to show the marker that you've made a judgment. Okay, moving on to step 2. You have to connect your question to the syllabus dot point. The importance of connecting your question to the syllabus dot point is that it will allow you to draw on your knowledge of the syllabus dot point to answer the question. So, for example, going back to the question we just looked at, assess the usefulness of your chosen sources to a historian studying the strategies employed by the American government to recruit men for the war effort during World War I. That question is related to the nature of World War I, including the scale of recruitment, conscription, censorship, and propaganda in World War I. So now you can bring in your knowledge of propaganda and scale of recruitment to answer the question. Moving on. Step 3. Use an analysis framework such as Adamant or OMCAPUR to extract information from the source and use that to annotate your source. So we've already been through this. We already know how to use Adamant and OMCAPUR. I've already put the example here. So I've already put the framework there. So just ask of your source the name of the author, the date, the audience, message, agenda, nature, and technique if you're using Adamant. If you're using OMCAPUR, think about the origin, motive, content, audience, perspective, usefulness, and reliability of the source. Use that to annotate the source. So when you're in the exam, draw lines and annotate these elements of the source. That's your step 3. Moving forward, think about how many paragraphs you will write and how will you distribute information across the paragraphs. So is your first paragraph going to focus on the reliability and the usefulness of a source, and is your second paragraph going to focus on other elements, or is one paragraph going to focus on usefulness, the other paragraph going to focus on reliability? Is one paragraph for source 1, is the other paragraph for source 2? So think about how you're going to be distributing information across your paragraph. If your extended response is based upon 2 sources, you might want to follow the structure on the right. So I've done it as introduction, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, and conclusion. So one body paragraph will be based on one source and the other body paragraph will be based on the other source. Dedicate a paragraph to each source. That's how I've laid that out. And for a 10-mark question, aim to write about 2 to 3 body paragraphs. You can't really do much more than that in the amount of time that you have. So focus on writing 2 to 3 paragraphs that provide well-reasoned judgments and have enough content in them. Okay, moving on. Step 5, use your Adamant or OMCAPUR framework to create a scaffold for your paragraph. So once you create the scaffold, it's going to help you write your extended response. This means you should select the elements of the source that you have already deconstructed in your framework for use in your paragraph. So things like, if I use Adamant, I know who the author is, I know if it's a primary or secondary source, the date, the message, and the nature and the type. So I use all that information to write down details under paragraph 1 to know what I'll be discussing. So for example, paragraph 1, I might be discussing usefulness, the fact that it's a primary source, the content it has, the motivation of the source, and the reliability of the source. That's what I'll be discussing in paragraph 1. So I've made notes of that. This is my scaffold. It's an example of a scaffold. Scaffolding paragraph 1. I've made note of the things that I will be discussing. And the next step would be to add details to this. So I might draw a dash next to usefulness and talk about how the source is useful. I might draw a dash next to primary source and talk about the details of the source, so the date that it was constructed, by who, the content. You get the message. You're drawing a line and then you're just adding detail. I can also add quotes to help me in my paragraph to show that I have really engaged with the source, and I'll basically repeat this process for paragraph 2. So if I have if I have a scaffold for paragraph 1 and a scaffold for paragraph 2, I have my body paragraphs taken care of, and then in my introduction and my conclusion, I just need to put forth my judgment of the sources and reiterate that in the conclusion. Okay, moving forward. Using your scaffold, once you have created your scaffold, you're basically going to use it to write your extended response. Remember to write a clear and concise introduction and conclusion that uses the language of the question. Make sure to include historical terminology to make your writing a piece sophisticated. Make reasoned judgments. Do not spend too long creating your scaffold. Its purpose is to structure your response and to jog your memory about what to write. So don't try to write your whole essay down in your scaffold. Make sure it's short, concise, something that helps you fulfill the actual task of writing, responding to a 10-mark extended response question.